Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
And he thought about it. He thought about doing that tricky thing with the microphone again.
Do you guys remember this? This was back on March 20th, 2018. And it's a crazy world we live in, a crazy matrix of sorts. You know, we see sometimes things come around at certain anniversaries that seem to have something to do with something that happened way before. So, why am I bringing this up? This was bizarre. Power outage and zombie alert for residents of Lake Worth and Terminus. There are now far less than 7,380 customers involved due to extreme zombie activity. Restoration time uncertain. Terminus, that was part of The Walking Dead. And Terminus was a city that everybody thought was going to be a salvation, but it turned out to be a food processing plant for us. Basically, was not what it seems. So, this is from the CDC. Yeah, it's got me so surprised. They actually have zombie preparedness pages and products. This is from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Do they have a real good sense of humor, or are they trying to tell us something?
It's very, very disturbing nonetheless, even if it is a sense of humor or trying to tell us something. Either way, it's really just so wrong.
Yeah, so it says, wonder why zombies, zombie apocalypse, and zombie preparedness continue to live or walk dead on a CDC website. As it turns out, what first began as tongue-in-cheek campaign to engage new audiences with preparedness messages has proven to be a very effective platform. We continue to reach and engage a wide variety of audiences on all hazards, preparedness via zombie preparedness. Well, I do remember the cases in South Florida, around Miami in particular, where there were people that were, I don't know what they were doing. They were doing something, and they were actually attacking people and trying to bite them. Do you remember that years back?
I don't remember that years back, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I want to say that was around 2017. Wait. I think it was like 1 year before this warning came out.
No, I do. I really feel like there was some type of a demonic possession thing going on out there. It was really bad. I remember that now. Yuck.
It was crazy. And, you got to wonder what's going on in this world or what could come next. I had some photos I wanted to share with you guys, but I can't get them to open up on this computer. And this is our computer that doesn't get the echoing and the the craziness to it. It's the one that they don't seem to hack into as easy. But interesting stuff in the skies, interesting sounds in the skies. We keep hearing like massive, large planes or rockets or something going overhead. And when you look, there's nothing. You might see a plane in the distance at 33,000 feet, but it's not that's literally shaking the house. And our brothers Mark and Netsaya took some really interesting photos of stuff that, what is it? I don't know. I mean, we're going to probably have to open it up on the other computer and, go over it there. And I'll basically delete programs and bring them back on, because that often gives us one good video before it gets tapped in again. So this is just really, really curious. And we have, everybody's talked about this for a long time. Apophis, the asteroid, right, that is going to zoom by Earth Friday. They call it the demon asteroid, the size of the Eiffel Tower. Now, it's going to be many, many distances of the moon close to us this time, so it's not dangerous. More than 40 times the distance from the Earth to the moon. We have about 120 that come within the distance of the Earth to the moon, typically now in these times. But on April 13th 2029, it's going to get as close to Earth as some of the highest orbit satellites. So at that time it should pose a legitimate danger, and we'll have to watch it. But interesting that they call it Apophis, right? Apophis is Egyptian. And you see here, who is Apophis? Well, Apophis has quite a reputation, known as the god of evil, chaos, darkness, and destruction. And some retellings of his legend, Apophis was actually a former sun god who was pushed aside when Ra came on the stage. Ra and Apophis are therefore constantly fighting, since Apophis does not want him to succeed in his task of bringing dawn every day. Well, what does Apophis look like? Well, literally a giant snake, which he has nicknames such as the evil lizard. Well, we got a lot of those on this planet.
Yes, we sure do. A lot. Enough.
A lot of them can't keep their mask up over their nose.
I know, right? That's funny.
Or serpent from the Nile. So interesting, isn't it interesting? You know, so we have all these different legends that have the same sort of descriptive beings. I guess we could, you know, you might equate the serpent with a dragon of sorts as well. Like when you look at the Chinese dragon, then we have Mother Shipton talking about, you know, all the death and chaos and destruction that comes by because of the dragon's tail. Is this all interrelated? Is it all just predictive programming? Is it all just getting us to create a negative reality and a negative fate for all of us?
Well, you know, I've had strong beliefs about that for a very long time, and I do feel that they put the information out there and let our energy go ahead and lead the way. As long as we believe in what they say, they have a tool to use against us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've talked about this a lot. Think about it. It's a lot like a Westworld script, right? And it's just playing out, and we're coming in and we're playing it out, and who knows how many times we played it out before, and this time we're trying to really change the script.
I know, and Westworld really hit home. It's like that was so filled with what I felt was truths on many different levels.
Yes, very much so. So we see 68 of 256 quakes in this area where we had the 8.1, the 7.4, the 7.3. And as we can see, we got some aftershocks coming in like 6.2. There are so many of them in the 5s and some in the 4s. 68. It's still most definitely rocking and rolling over here. Wild, wild, wild. What we're seeing with the earth changes is everything is going up. There were some tsunami waves that came in and hit the coastline as well. There's video here for you guys to look at. You know, thankfully, it could have been way worse than it was. So, you know, danger has passed at this moment. Still might be dangerous surf out there, though, for those of you that are out there.
Yes, so definitely be safe, everyone, please.
And it's from Electroverse, talking about the day the Earth shook. And one of the things that was really interesting, it almost happened exactly 10 years to the day that we had that 9.1 in Japan, right? And that's what I'm getting at. It's interesting. Now, of course, you know, we have 11-year solar cycle, so, you know, related to the solar cycles, perhaps. Very, very much a possibility. Or, you know, is it more tied into zombie activity? If you guys catch what I mean there.
Well, as above, so below. So if things are chaotic up there, they could be chaotic down here, everywhere.
Now, Greece had a 6.3 recently, and they had a smaller one that came by. This is the damage from the 6.3 that we had seen before. A new earthquake hit central Greece near the city of Larissa on Thursday. Same region where an even stronger tremor left 11 people injured day before. This was a 5.6. It did cause rock falls as well. The world is going through a period of rapid change, and Pinatubo alert status raised from normal to level 1 after thousands of earthquake swarms from the volcano, first time since 1996. Oof, that was the eruption in 1991. Can you imagine trying to flee that before that caught up with you?
No, that's really crazy.
Yeah, they recorded 9 volcanic earthquakes since yesterday. So, you know, there's even more volcanoes that are most definitely, most obviously coming online. And unusual volcanic earthquakes recorded in Utah show Black Rock Desert Volcanic Field is still active, alive, and kicking. And we touched on this during yesterday's live. You know, where we have been, you know, there's volcanic debris all over the place. And, you know, you got to question, when was that last activity? I mean, if you're going, you know, from Albuquerque and you're heading out towards, heading towards Arizona, when you go through like the Grants area there, right on the highway itself, you'll see all sorts of, on the side of the highway, all sorts of volcanic rubble. Just, tons of volcanic rubble there. I gotta wonder, I don't think, I think these things happen a lot more often. I think there's a lot of quote unquote, inactive volcanic fields that may come back online.
Yeah, I do believe that. And again, we're only given information that they want us to see. So like yesterday, so many of you had feelings of dis-ease, if you want to say that, because the earth is having problems. So this is where we really need to listen to ourselves to see what's going on.
Yeah, when we've asked the guides and stuff about, because we've been all over the Four Corners area, where in Utah should we consider? And then they would always put us in this corner, in the southeast corner as being, the best spot as far as Utah goes. And you see this volcanic field here, which is over on the eastern side. And if you look at some of the Earth change maps, which, we think they're a little bit exaggerated, really, when you look at, Gordon Michael Scallions and some of the others, doesn't feel like it's going to be quite that bad. We're so much of the West is just gone, just totally gone. We don't really get that, but we do get that there's going to be a lot of activity. And, again, we were living in Nevada for quite a while, and we could feel it. And we did feel those two big ones. We felt the Ridgecrest, and we felt the one up in Tonopah. I mean, it shook the trailer big time.
Dude, that was really crazy. Yep.
Yeah, we thought there was two big feet out there playing tug of war with the trailer.
One on each side.
Yep. And, really, I wouldn't be surprised as we've had so many visits from different entities.
Yes, we've had some chupacabra stuff. Yep.
Yep. And we've also had some Anunnaki stuff that we've seen. Uh-oh, we're going to get the little Wikipedia now that we said the A word. And that means that there's something to it. Whenever they put a post up there, it's like, guys, come on. How high is your IQ with this AI if you're going to do that? Because then you're verifying.
I know, you're highlighting it.
Yep. So we have Veniaminov volcano alert raised as well. Small explosion was detected. This is up in Alaska. When we see all these at the same time, then it's telling us we're going into a whole new phase. Severe tropical cyclone Naran heading towards New Caledonia. And this is a Category 5 on the Australian scale. And you look at it, it does have low central pressure, 931 millibars. So, this is a strong one. And, man, what's this year going to bring? Last year was crazy. Last year, I mean, Louisiana took so many blows. And then we have been seeing the tornado alley has been shifting more and more eastward. You used to think tornado, you would think Oklahoma. But Oklahoma hasn't had that much activity compared to in the past. It's moved more towards, like Mississippi and Alabama. And by the way, there is the possibility of maybe seeing some tornadoes later on in the week as, the way the storm systems are lining up. I would keep an eye out anywhere from like Kansas and Arkansas, Missouri. It's getting pretty crazy. It's going to be a crazy one too. And our good friend David Devine at DAP 2030 did a video a few days back talking about how this year should be a replay again of like 10 years ago, 2011. Interesting how all these things line up, they really, really do line up. And 2011 was a super busy year for tornadoes, super busy. And this one could be a repeat.
It really could be. So, don't be scared, but be prepared.
Yes. Cold blast sweeps through the northeast following winter storm in the west. We've talked also about, the fact that the Gulf Stream is slowing down to a trickle. And, when that does stop and it feels like it's more of a when, than a if, it's going to get seriously cold in the northeast. So parts of New York and New England are recording below 0-degree wind chills on Friday morning, March 5th, as cold blast sweeps through the northeast. The cold wave came after a winter storm brought heavy snow to parts of the west on Thursday. Beautiful. But when it gets to be super cold out there, got to be careful.
Yep. Please be careful.
And going over to Sign of the Times, we see severe blizzard hits Russia, and you can't see anything. Talk about a whiteout. It's, you know, like they were saying here, Chukotka is cut off from the world because of this heavy snow in Russia. And, you know, yeah, this building's not having a good day. You know, it would really suck to have your roof ripped off while you have a blizzard going on in temperatures that can freeze you very quick.
Instantly. That's crazy.
And you got wind gusts that were reaching 42 meters a second. The wind. That's a big thing. And again, when we're talking to David at Adapt 2030, he placed himself where he did in Tennessee because of the natural protection that you would get from the general, typically a west to east flow is what you get. If we ever do get up, and we may get up to like those 300-mile-an-hour wind gusts as we head towards that magnetic reversal.
I know, we got that going on too.
Oh yeah, we're living at the intersection of all these different cycles. And then we also have the artificially flavored elements to it.
Well, they definitely want to try to take advantage of that and steer things as best they can.
So here we see mystery of a monster star's dimming detailed in a new Hubble study. And they get into a lot of different things. We've seen a lot of different stars dimming. And we've seen a lot of stars going and becoming red giants. And there's also the talk of the galactic superwave that's coming in. And it is changing things. It's changing stars. And, you know, the bottom line is, you know, they're not sharing with us what they know. If, you know, they do know exactly what's going on. I'm sure at the very top, they know exactly what's going on.
I know, they have it down to a science.
The other thing they're getting into is some of these giant stars. I don't know if people realize just how big some stars are. Like the one that they're talking about, if it was our star, the star would be so big that it would extend out to between the orbits of Jupiter and Saturn.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Yeah, so if the Earth, right, in the inner solar system is 93 million miles away from the sun, and this star is extending out past the orbit of Jupiter, like right in between Jupiter and Saturn, that's amazing to think about. And then think about it, that the fact that that's a being. Yeah. That is a conscious being out there.
It's an intelligence. It's a form of light, just like us.
Yeah, it's really wild. And Betelgeuse, Betelgeuse, yeah. Right? That's Betelgeuse, is the bright red supergiant star in the constellation of Orion. Dum dum dum.
Dun 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 dun.
The Orion group. If we go into the law of one channelings from Ra, and somebody had asked before, because we had mentioned that we discovered that Isis is a collective and Ra is a collective. That's, you know, that's what we get from the law of one. A lot of perhaps the mythological quote unquote gods are really collectives. They're ascended beings that have ascended as a group.
Yes, and that's things that we're just not going to find in a book.
No. And so this is why everything is so convoluted. And, you know, not to get too far off the Earth changes stuff, really we could do just a whole show on this. And maybe from the road we'll do some just kind of casual talking and going over some of the things that perhaps we haven't, you know, released yet from our discoveries. When you look to... and I do enjoy Gaia TV. Yeah. You know, I really do enjoy Gaia. And there's the channel, The Fifth Kind. There's a tendency to want to say everything that we see out there are ETs in a 3D sense. You know, like these are all ancient astronauts driving around in a machine, albeit, you know, highly technologically advanced. But they're not all 3D ancient astronauts. Some beings that we're referenced to are the very stars and suns and planets that we see out there.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we're not taught these things. These are things that we come to discover on our own.
For instance, we were asking the guides, you know, now ISIS is a very, very big entity that encompasses many. And then when we got to, you know, we were talking about Astarte, and then we were talking about Inanna. Now, when you go to Inanna, first thing that Cindy said, and she's not like me, she's not somebody that's like such a history buff and a mythology buff. She said, I'm seeing bird feet with her.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I don't, because I can't retain information. If I read a sentence, I forget as soon as I read it. So when I come up with things, that's what I came up with. She had bird feet. Yeah.
And I said, do you get more of a Anunnaki or semi-reptilian vibe?
I got a little, not such a great vibe from her. Kind of a pretty controlling, pretty vicious vibe, really.
Yeah, so there's a tendency, and I've seen so many people do it, to say, you know, that Inanna is another name for ISIS, but it's not the case. You know, it's not the same entity. There's this, there's a lot of people that are out there that will say that, you know, this entity is this entity is this entity is really Enlil or really Enki. And just jumble them all together. But some these beings are these humanoid reptilian beings that exist mostly on 4D and often can manifest in 3D. And then other ones, we're talking their consciousness is literally these ginormous stars that we're talking about that are so big they would extend from where our sun is to Saturn. You know, and they are not tiny little finite beings going around in ships.
Right. They make a difference. They make the big waves. They form what we know today to be consciousness. And those are beings that are very difficult to channel because they don't look at death as an issue. You know, to them it's all together. So channeling them can be a little bit tricky.
Most definitely. I mean, they're enormous consciousnesses. Yeah. So, you know, it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not that every single one of these ancient beings from mythology is literally just a reptilian under Draco control. It's very, very messed up. It's very convoluted. It's been done that way on purpose. And again, this is what we've been getting towards and trying to get across. It's not an either or. They always want us to look at everything either or. Well, it's either angels, you know, or it's demons or fallen angels. You know, it can't be that there are angels and there is, you know, demons as well, and there is extraterrestrials, and there are all sorts of interdimensionals, and there are these stellar consciousnesses out there. You know, they get you wanting to just pick one tiny little mindset so that you don't see the bigger picture.
Well, what I do is I look at, you know, my loved ones, those that are closest to me in my life, and I look at them and I'm like, they're not 100% angel. They're definitely not 100% demon. They're a little bit in between with their, you know, down with their falses and so on and so forth. And other beings are like that too. It's the same thing.
It is. It is. And this is also a multiverse of duality. And that extends pretty high up because we have gotten that, you know, there really isn't anything in the manifest universe that's necessarily more powerful than the archangels, for instance. They're about as powerful and as close to source as we can envision. And yet they have the counterpart, the archonic counterpart that's there as well on the other side.
Yes, the polarity of things. And that's where things get a little bit different. You know, when you look at densities, whatever densities you have in the light is an opposite in the dark.
And so, you know, we get it also with a lot of people that are conditioned to believe that everything in the Bible is perfect and true and the Bible is without flaws. And yet, as we've said, you know, if we go to the oldest codice that we have of the Gospel of John, there's 3,000 edits and revisions in it. So no, it's not perfect. And we bring up the fact that King James, who commissioned the King James Bible, he was the head of all the Masonic churches. He is a part of the secret society. He's part of the bloodlines. So of course the stories are going to be such, the version is going to be such that it's again twisted, and that's why we do believe in Yeshua, who everybody calls Jesus, and again that's the Latinized version from Jesus. So there really wasn't anybody going around, with the name Jesus in his time. None of his disciples called him Jesus. He was Yeshua, and that's part of the twisting of things. But now, it doesn't really matter so much because there's an energy current behind the name Jesus now from all the billions of people that have been followers that you could tap into. This is part of understanding, chaos magic, for instance. It's all about tapping into streams of consciousness. So yeah, you could heal in the name of Jesus, and you could also heal in the name of Yeshua, and you could also heal in the name of any of the beautiful, benevolent beings that are out there that truly want to help humanity. So, you can think that the Bible has been corrupted and flawed and contrived in such a way as to, if people really study it, they'll either scratch their heads and say, what? Because of all the contradictions that are in there. And there are tons of contradictions. We go to Chronicles and Kings and we see, different stories about the census, by the way, in the census, because David does go and number the people. God sends a plague in the air, overhead, comes down, kills 50,000 people. Interesting. There's funny clouds that are in the sky nowadays too, So is it really the same control, beings really doing all that? You have to go deep. And unfortunately, so many people go deep without ever actually studying. And deciding. There is a gentleman, his name is Paul, he's on the Fifth Kind Network. He was a former priest, and now he just totally thinks that it's Anunnaki and it's a control system, and you could see it clearly. And isn't it fascinating that Yeshua, when he was here and he was approached by the Pharisees and the Sadducees, he said that their God is not his God, and that they are actually a synagogue of Satan.
Right. And, you can also look at the Bible, and if they say that there are no flaws in it, well, maybe in the sense where they created it so that it's a control mechanism. Maybe then there's no flaws in it because they did make it a very good control mechanism. So, yeah.
And we'll do part 2 of book 1 of the Gospel of Peace for you guys. That was pretty well received. I see these politicians constantly tweeting quotes from Scripture, and so much of it is fear of God is the beginning of wisdom and stuff. But if God is love, fear is the opposite of love, then how does that work? It doesn't work. But when we look at the Anunnaki stories, which say that humans are a slave race, oh, well, then fear of the master because you're going to get punished, that makes perfect sense.
Right. And then there's that.
Yeah. And so we diverge, but at the same time, everything here is part of this matrix that's been created for us in order to imprison our minds and keep us from discovering the truth that we are very, very powerful, infinite beings. And, there are some that feel that we are the fallen angels, and that the fall of man, it's not about disobeying your Anunnaki master. It's about lowering your vibrations and consciousness, having your wings clipped. And we've talked about how all those references to wings, when you look at wings on angels, it's the Merkaba, it's the light body, which doesn't become activated until you activate your Kundalini. So for that, you have to open up your chakras. And right now, there's signals going through our computers, our routers. There's signals being given off all over the place that are closing your chakras. Closing you down, keeping you encapsulated in this dark, heavy, black matrix so that you won't have your wings and you won't be able to fly beyond their grasp.
Right. We were getting information yesterday that they put out streams to shut down definitely the heart and the throat chakra. So when those chakras are not open, you're not getting all the information that you need to get, to help yourself evolve. So, turn that router off a few times a day. Just turn it off, go enjoy yourself, read a book. It's important to get those EMFs out of your way.
And the Kundalini energy is the energy of Shakti. It's the energy of the divine feminine, which is lying dormant in the vast majority of the population on this planet at the base of the spine. And it desires union with the divine masculine, which is going to be basically the path to that is straight up through the Sushumna. And we've talked about the different channels, the nadis, the channels of energy. You have a energy body that is very similar to your vascular network and even beyond that. And so it's the Shakti wanting to unite with, if we are going to use the Vedic tradition, the Shiva, that which is not, pure consciousness itself that is not manifest. And so in this world of duality, it's all about initiating the Kundalini flow. And that's how we end up being able to have all the siddhis, the superpowers that we see the yogis display and beings like Yeshua display. We're being able to heal with intention and touch just in a moment's time.
Yep. Very important to start with that. You got to start with healing yourself. And once that's done, then everything just falls into place naturally.
It does. So guys, thanks for being part of the family. Make sure you are subscribed, have the bell clicked for notifications. Thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. We couldn't do it without you. If you need to reach out to us for a session, it's EEARTS@protonmail.com or evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. And Cindy is going to give us some good energy here.
God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste, guys.